Center, Leadership and Business Management for Facility Managers, presented by Geoff Williams and Nicole Lobb. Next slide, please. I do want to let everyone know that they have been muted for audio quality. Please make sure to type your questions into the chat box and we'll go over them during the Q&A portion of the webinar. Next slide, please. The FMCC does provide many services to the FM community, such as Ask the Expert, Find a Consultant, Locate a Speaker, and online educational resources. You may find more information at their website, fmcc.ifma.org. Next slide, please. And I would like to go ahead and thank our sponsors for the webinars. And the next slide. I do want to remind everyone, when you exit the webinar, a box will come up asking you to take a survey. I do encourage you to take that survey as the FMCC board does look at that feedback. Next slide. Also, a PDF of the PowerPoint and a link to the recording will be sent to all those that have registered following the webinar today. Next slide. Okay, and at this time, I want to go ahead and turn it over to our presenters, Nicole and Geoff.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Nicole and I are both pleased to be here. We both work at a company called Center for Health and Safety Innovation in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. And we're going to talk a little bit about our building and a case study as we get further down into the presentation. Both of us are quite heavily involved in IFMA. Nicole at the Toronto chapter level, myself on the board of directors for the international body. And we're really excited to start to talk about some of the things that we've been doing and learning in our own organizations. Nicole is my client services and facility manager, and I am the general manager at Center for Health and Safety Innovation. So we'll talk more again about that later on, but we'll start jumping into the presentation. What we're going to do today is we're going to take you through some common revenue opportunities for FMs. We're going to talk very briefly about that. And then we're going to talk about how that would probably fit into the strategic plan, or how an FM should try and fit into the strategic plan for their organization. And then we've got a list of 4 skill sets that we think are really important to help people understand how to become a small business manager. And that's the premise of this discussion, is that if we're going after revenue, we want to become a small business manager. And then starting to talk about how we communicate with senior executives or the C-suite in our organizations in order to bring the ideas that we have for revenue and as a small business manager to fruition. Nicole is going to talk primarily about our case study, about Center for Health and Safety Innovation, how we applied basically all the things that we're talking about today. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek at what we're going to be sort of getting down to the end of the presentation. But really what we're talking about is learning how we can operate as a small business manager and show net benefit to our organizations. And this is a spreadsheet, or a line graph that talks about the revenue growth in our organization. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. I should say that at any time, if you have some questions, please put them in the chat box. Joshua is going to interrupt us if there's something that probably should be addressed at the time that we're presenting. And if not, we can save questions for the end, but we're happy to do it either way. When we're looking at revenue opportunities for FM, we're really talking about a whole list of things, and we've just listed 4 up here. But there are all sorts of different revenue opportunities. We talked with a gentleman at World Workplace that was using the roof of his building, and he worked in a shopping mall, as a drive-in movie theater. So every Friday and Saturday night, they'd pop up a screen, and people would pay to enter the parking lot, which wouldn't have been normally used at those hours, and that was rental and revenue for his facility. When we talk about our product, this is kind of the key to the 4 things that we're talking about. So the product is the first thing, and when we're talking about product, we want to make sure we really understand it. Only once we understand the product can we start to understand what customer service looks like for that product, budgets, how we're going to develop a revenue budget, and marketing, and how we get people interested in our product. So those are the 4 elements that we're really going to be threading through most of this presentation. Okay, so looking at strategy, and I teach a university course at both the University of Toronto and Ryerson University in Toronto. And when I ask my class how well they understand their corporate strategic plan, or even their vision and mission statements, almost none answer the question with putting up their hand. And it's all adult learning, and it's something that I find very interesting. And it's because as an FM, we need to understand in detail the corporate strategic plan, because it's only then that we're going to be able to start understanding how to fit the FM strategy within the overall strategic plan. If we're operating outside corporate strategy, we're effectively rudderless. It's going to be very difficult for us to get approval for any initiative if we're not tying it back to the overall goals of the organization that we support. The second thing is that FMs tend to be third thing is FMs tend to be a bit of a wallflower. And so we don't always stand up and say, this is our success against our corporate goals. We don't demonstrate it. And so people don't always know that we're out there and doing things that are actually supporting our overall strategy. And outside of expense reduction, because to me I think that expense reduction has its own pitfalls. I think we should be delivering value for money and not continuously reducing expense. But what can FM do for the bottom line of the organization? And it's not just about FM costs, in my opinion. So we're going to talk about some of those things, but when we talk about FM as a small business manager, we need to be able to align ourselves to at least those 4 elements. The set of skills that we talked about on the second or third slide, we're going to get into more detail on and develop. But what we need to do is look at how our skills as an FM may stack up in becoming a small business manager. It's only then that we're going to be able to comfortably speak to the C-suite. Okay. Product understanding. I'd say probably in most cases, FMs are weak at understanding the product that we offer as FMs. And so when we start to look at as a revenue-based product, what we're trying to generate revenue on, I think we need some work there. And the reason I think that we're weak in general is we get distracted on tasks and completing them, and we forget what the actions and the end result look like to our customer. We're just focused on getting things done. From the outside looking in, how do we appear to our client? What is the product to someone else, not just what is the product to us? And so when we're trying to define our product, we need to be sure that we understand what the product looks like to our customer. And then we need to align it to our strategic plan. If we can't figure out how what we're doing fits in the strategic plan, and I'll probably be honest with you, in most cases, if we're talking about revenue generation, we're talking about that one element of our balanced scorecard that's focused on the money. Probably in most regards, we're talking about the money, but we have to look at the other elements of the strategic plan and make sure it makes sense. And then we want to make sure that the product is a natural extension of our business. We can't be looking at 2 different things and trying to jam them together. We'll never make it work. And so, if we have a parking garage and we have staff parking there and then we have extra space, that's really easy. That's a natural extension of the business that we're already in. We're maintaining the parking garage. We have the space. We're providing it to our own occupants. Why not provide it to others? But when we look at CHSI in particular, what we had is we started to launch a new community event series. And it is an extension of what we're doing. It's certainly definitely aligned to our mission statement. Nicole's going to talk a little bit about that. But what we were having trouble getting our staff person that was in charge of that element of our business in understanding is that the product of the community events was really heavily correlated with other products and services that we offer. And so to get rid of that tunnel vision of looking at the one product and the one product only, but looking at everything as a suite of products and how they have interdependencies and can benefit each other. Marketing. I think this one is also a weak one for FM. It's a totally different subject matter expert that's usually involved in marketing, and I don't think it's something that we should expect that we're going to know out of the box. But spending some time, at the very least, with the marketing department that you support would be important, or so that to support your organization would be important. What has to happen in marketing is that the product understanding has to translate into how we're getting our product out there. I spoke to a friend of mine who had a parking garage in a downtown core of a city, and they couldn't figure out why they weren't generating revenue on the product. And so what they had to do is they had to figure out what it was that the product meant to their clients and their potential clients and put a marketing campaign around it. Very simple solution came from a combination of their marketing department and the parking provider that they were working with. It ended up being that they needed an early bird price. As soon as they put an early bird price in place and marketed that early bird price, all of a sudden their revenue jumped heavily, and parking was full most of the time. So really understanding the product, understanding the nature of your client, and then moving into how to get that information out to a client so it's most attractive to them. Okay, customer service. I actually think that in most cases that we're pretty good at customer service. I think FM really spends a lot of time focusing on trying to be what our customers need, and we have good skills in that area. But we don't always understand how our service is perceived by others, and how we're coordinating the benefit of the product that we offer with the occupants, guests, and business goals. And so when we start to try and pull all those things together, then customer service has a whole different meaning, because we're talking about the full experience of the interaction between the people that visit the facility, those that occupy it, and the facility itself. And those are very kind of complex interrelationships that we have to make sure that we understand, especially if we're offering a product for sale and how that works within an organization. And it depends on your own organization as to how it's going to work. I guess a good example of this, and we're talking about the occupant experience, might be a law firm versus a hospital, and how you might consider maintaining a law firm versus a hospital. Hospital is a high availability facility. It's operating 24/7. So the customer service element of it is that we have to make sure that the building is able to serve the customers, the patients, the doctors, the nurses, everyone that's occupying the building, and their families. Versus a law firm, which is not that it isn't a 24/7 operation, but the high availability element versus the aesthetic of having everything looking proper while people are occupying the building means that we're not maintaining 24/7. We're likely maintaining in the middle of the night, so everything is seamless for the clients and the lawyers that are throughout the day. So customer service means different things to different building types. It means different things to different products that you're offering. I'll keep going and move on to budgets. My understanding is that finance is one of those areas that FMs test lowest in when they do the CFM prep exam. I think there's one other area that's weak as far as the core competencies. And having said that, I think that we're pretty good at managing expenses. I think we can manage expenses to make sure that we're not overspending our accounts and trying to keep everything in line with our budgets. And developing expense budgets is pretty good because we've got a lot of track record. We understand what things cost. We know the state of our facility. It's a much different thing when you start to develop revenue budgets. So when you start to look at trying to figure out how you're going to project your revenues, how are you going to manage that? In our organization, we manage it with two different charts, and so Nicole will talk about it a little bit more later, but we're trying to develop historical trend information to understand what the ebb and flow of our business is. So on the left-hand side of the screen, what you see is us looking at our conference center bookings. So in the dark purple, we're seeing our confirmed bookings. And we're talking about a 12-month period. So when we're looking at it in February, we're looking at January to December of that year, and that's what our confirmed bookings look like. We start tracking this at about September of the previous year, and of course we're looking for a trend going up. The other thing that we look at is tentative bookings. We get a lot of people that are on the fence, and we want to try and figure out over time what our conversion rate is from tentative to confirmed. And you'll start to see in the March and February that we're actually going up in both situations. And they're almost in lockstep. Next thing that we do is we look on a month by month. So if we're looking at February, the different colors mean different things. We start tracking it at 90 days out. Then we look at 60 days. And at 60 days, we also look at the availability, what we have left to sell, and the unconfirms that we have. So we have an idea of where we might start to land at the 30 days. And for February, if you look at it, March isn't too dissimilar. If you were to add the 60-day unconfirmed to the 60-day amount, you're pretty close to seeing what our 30-day is. And that's a pretty good number, and we can start to track that. And then from the 30-day to actual, we can pretty much give a trend of how much we're going to sell within the month and lock down. And it's around 15% of our total take. Until we start to track this, we can't do accurate revenue projections. And that's one of the very difficult things. And understanding the events, understanding what impacts our revenue, things like holiday in a week, in a month impact our revenue. So in Canada, we have Good Friday tomorrow, and that's a statutory holiday. And so as a result, April is a little bit soft for us because we lose a lot of revenue leading up to Good Friday. We're almost empty today, and then we'll be very quiet on Easter Monday, which isn't really a holiday except for government offices in Canada, but it just slows everything down. Okay, so if we can put all of those things together, and we want to start to engage senior leadership. Well, how are we going to actually be engaged with the senior leadership? What do we want to be doing? And we want to be able to foster a long-term relationship with that group. So we want to be involved in the strategic planning, and we want to start to communicate what our facility costs are. Sorry, pardon me. We want to be able to communicate that we are leaders in our organization. Facility costs are only second to the staffing of an organization, and the building is really highly integrated into the business and staff morale, and we're linking that back to the building as well. So when we start to do that, we can start to say that here we are at the table. We understand our business. We understand the business that we support. We want to make sure that we understand how we can actually develop that relationship so that the information that we provide to the C-suite and the senior leadership is strong and current and accurate. Everyone is a person too. So what are the hot buttons of the individuals in the senior elements of our organization? What are the things that drive the CFO? Money primarily. What are the things that drive the CEO? And that could be very different. And who are our allies? We need somebody that's our ally in the senior suite, senior leadership. We need to be able to lobby that group and make sure that they understand who we are, what we stand for, and that we're going to bring huge value to the organization. And certainly if we're going to present a business case, you never want to walk in cold. Most of the people around the room should know what the big presentation is going to be. We want to make sure that we are completely aware of the drivers and needs of the organization that we're supporting, the people in the senior leadership roles. And we want to have people in our court when it comes down to a vote. And we need to be able to present information in a way that grounds us to the way they want to see it and what they're looking for as a business. Once we've gotten all of those skills mastered, we're able to effectively demonstrate the strategy for operating and developing a business. Whether it's a small side business or whether it's actually the business that we're supporting, we're not just there to spend money, we're there to deliver value, and we have an opportunity to do that. We're able to effectively articulate our product. So if we've got a very distinct product that we're selling, we're able to articulate that to all of our stakeholders, and that includes our clients. We're able to develop that marketing plan that we talked about so that we can, and that could be through subject matter experts or third parties, but we have a marketing plan that will effectively get information in front of people so that they can make a decision on whether they're interested in our product or not. And then we can demonstrate our customer service. We can show that we're actually providing high levels of customer service and that those needs are being met through the product and through the marketing and through our service plan. And in the end, it comes down, and probably in most cases, to money, and we're going to show how we support the bottom line. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole. She's going to talk about how CHSI has done some of these things.
Hi there, everyone. As Geoff said, I'm going to try my best to tie back the skills and principles that Geoff has spoken about and tie it back to our case study and how we've done this at the Corporate Event Center at the Center for Health and Safety Innovation. So if you read the corporate objective, create a unique meeting place that advances and promotes the mission of CHSI and supports its partners and stakeholders. So we're a facility-centric business. Everything we do is tied back to our corporate objective, and it's built upon with our mission statement, which I'll review over later. So who is, you'll hear me call it CHSI, Center for Health and Safety Innovation. We play a number of roles within this facility. So we're tenants. This is our offices. We also operate as the landlord and property manager for our tenants. So we have 2 provincial health and safety associations, a tech company, and a paramedical clinic, and also we have a Fortune 500 company operating out of one of our facilities. We also operate as a facility manager. So for some of our tenants, they're paying for a higher level of service of facility management than others, so our involvement with them is much heavier. We also have the business that Geoff has been referring to is our Corporate Event Center that we operate. It takes about 1/3 of our building and is utilized by both our tenants and the public. We also run the Community Event Series, which is a lot about how we've managed to tie back our business to the mission statement through inspiring prevention in the community. So first of all, developing a management team that aligns to the service levels and matches our business size. When operating a small business, you need to consider how you're going to align these things. For a corporate event center, we need to make sure it's scalable. We started as a cottage industry and changed to a mature business. And you can see the slide outlines the change in roles, which was a shift. We focused from something that was non-customer related to an all-inclusive business oriented around the customer service strategy. So we've restructured the general manager, who is Geoff here. He was formerly called the facilities director, which is very facility-centric. However, we wanted to also relate it back into how his role is heavily played in managing our business. Client services and facility manager, which is myself, prior was called the facility manager. So as a facility manager, we manage the business, but we also want to talk about how, or present to our tenants and our public on how we've managed the relationship of the internal client, which is our tenants, into the facility management position. And then finally, we've newly created the role of the guest services manager, which was a result of the growth of business that you'll see in our revenue generation for Corporate Event Center. That role is focused on marketing the business and keeping us competitive within the industry, and they also heavily maintain a relationship with all of our client services, our Corporate Event Center clients. So here, if you take a look at our CHSI organization charts, this is a result of the changes that we made. The new org chart drives the responsibilities between the clients and the operation within the management roles. So just to review over the different colors, we have white refers to our strategic oversight through our governance. Green is our full-time equivalents. Blue is our contracted staff, who are CHSI employees. And we have orange, who's our business-to-business contracts that do include full-time employees, such as our janitorial or mail. And then finally, purple are service level agreements. So we've really focused on reorganizing the chart so that it's focused on how each of the management roles can play a part in how the business is ran. These are 3 important roles, and how we run it as a small business as opposed to just a facility. So why do these things work? as I said, the mission statement, to be a unique meeting place for applied learning and innovation and inspire prevention in the community. This is the root of how we define our external facing products, which is our corporate event center and our community events. So speaking specifically to unique meeting place, inspiring prevention through our corporate event center, an opportunity to provide training, resources, conferences, and then also our community events where we're inspiring that prevention within the community. So we've chosen to strategically market our business around these two elements, the Inspire Prevention and the unique meeting place. So we have 3 different types of customers to summarize. We have our residential or our residence clients, where we play our landlord role. We also have our corporate event center clients we refer often to as our external clients. Then we have our community event center clients. So we've had to align our product to each of the customer, and the way we treat them changes. So they're all looking for something different. For our resident clients, they're looking on how we can support them differently. So for an example, our paramedical clinic, they have young children up to elderly people coming into the facility on in 15-minute intervals. So it's constant traffic coming in and out of their door. Their expectations for corporate health and safety association would be rather different, in that it's less of a corporate function, more of a visitor base. For our corporate event center clients, we need to be flexible for all the different types of businesses that are entering in our facility, but also we've chosen, in order to market our business, we've chosen to target the corporate side. So we've created an environment that is plug and play for corporate meetings and training and conferences. We've gone as far down to one of our new additions in our facility. We have large corridor spaces in our public areas. We've made it so it's more so plug and play to host a trade show in our hallways so that we can engage more business and market that there's an opportunity to do larger conferences here. And then finally, our community event series clients. We're trying to put out into the community the health and safety, wellness, resources. It's really a new product. Geoff spoke earlier about the fact that our recent employee had a little bit of struggle understanding the connections between the corporate event center clients, our resident clients that are in here, and how they can relate those businesses and make it a more successful business. And as a result, we're still developing it. I'll talk about that a little bit further in where we've succeeded and where there's lots of opportunity. So we've aligned each of the products that we're offering. So for our resident clients, the facility was purpose-built for health and safety associations, and as a result, some of the CHSI operations have been aligned to suit their needs as a result. So first of all, understanding their unique businesses in the health and safety market is very important in how we operate our facility. We're very well known with our contractors that enter our facility and quote jobs for our facility that we consider health and safety absolutely #1. And we do a lot of prevention in injury as a result. It changes the way we do business with contractors, as well as how we've created a culture within our small team that they also know health and safety is #1, so no one's shy to speak out when they see something wrong from a health and safety perspective. We've also created a resource to hear more about those things, which is our Tenant Liaison Committee and also our Health and Safety Committee. So we're opening the doors to our clients, our tenants, to be able to talk to us about these things and create more of a community so that it's an open door. We don't want to find out 6 weeks down the road that there was a problem that was ignored that we didn't see, because we don't do laps around our facility on a constant basis. And then we also have the customer surveys, great opportunity to get people without writing down their name to complain about us it also is a great opportunity to show that they're really happy with our services and highlight specific roles or specific areas where they feel like we're doing well or areas that we can improve. We've also, we have our guest services. We've chosen not to call it a reception desk is because it speaks both to the people that enter the facility and as our guests, and then also to our tenants. So we're trying to create more of an environment of hospitality and that professionalism. And they're meant to also, for the tenants, the guest services role is meant to triage the incidents or scenarios that tenants that are coming to us so that they call on the correct people to react to the scenario. So for an example, if there's a burnt light bulb and someone's trying to get a hold of me as the client service and facility manager, the guest services coordinator up there is able to say, I'll send the day porter over to solve this problem. So it saves a lot of our time. And then finally, the relationships, which is very important. We've created that open environment. They know that they can relate to us and that we'll relate to them, and they're comfortable about coming to us. And that's very important to have a trusting relationship with your tenants. The corporate event center clients. So we've spent a lot of time trying to align our products specifically and create a market where we have clients flowing. So one big thing for a lot of corporate clients is cost. So we've created very competitive pricing. Our free services include the business center, printing and workstations, Wi-Fi, parking, all things that for conferences become very expensive, both for the people that are hosting the conference and then also for the people that attend your conference. So also ideally we have the Pearson Airport in Toronto right pretty much next door. So the hotels are all right there, the airport's right there. It's easy to get to if you're hosting conferences for your national or international visitors or employees. And as I said earlier, plug-and-play environment, which is really important to us. We're not going from a boardroom to a conference. It's specifically built for conferences. So it makes it very easy and very attractive as a result. Nice, modern, clean, and cut. And then we also have another cost savings is our catering is on site, and we accept no gratuities, which can save quite a bit of money. And we're very happy with the quality of the catering that's provided, and we get lots of compliments. So it's not just a basic cafeteria sandwich style. It's a good quality of food, so it competes more with the conference centers. And the community events clients, again, as I said, this is a new product, so we've spent a lot of time trying to understand the community needs. How long has the community event series been in play?
18 months.
About 18 months. And we're really just getting down to really understanding the successes and the areas that people want to hear about and creating repeat marquee events instead of trying to recreate the event topic on a constant basis. I think that we've come to an understanding of what they're wanting, but there's still tons of room for improvement. Because we are trying to satisfy multiple market segments. It's not a specific target. So we've spent a long time understanding who our target is. Also, the timing of the events comes down to the time of the year, the day of the week, the time of the day of that specific event depends on how successful the event is. And then also tying in how our industry partners, and I was speaking about specifically two of our tenants, the Health and Safety Associations, they can play a part in their partners. Even the paramedical clinic, they can play a part in the wellness aspect of the community events and not only developing content, but also marketing our series, which is, I think we're really starting to get our hands on it. And I can see that we're probably going to start to see an incline and more success rates within this product.
Okay, so it all comes back down to money. So for a resident client, it's not really magic. we're managing the expense like other FMs would manage the expense. But one of the things that we think that we do quite well is we're pretty creative about how we deliver value to our resident clients. And we've been working on energy saving initiatives. We've been working on different ways of contracting. We're pretty good, we think, at negotiating contracts and getting the right service in for the right price, and without sort of sacrificing service level. If anything, service level goes up when we attempt these different things. When we talk about our corporate event center clients, the big key thing that we did to drive revenue was to rebrand. Unfortunately, or fortunately for the rebranding effort, Corporate Event Center was called Center for Health and Safety Innovation prior to that, and it really didn't speak to what we were offering. And so if somebody did a web search for meeting and training or conference space in Mississauga, we would come up because we did some good work in search engine optimization, but we really didn't align the name, and so the click-through rate was really low. We were, even in some cases, we were number 1 or 2, and the click-through rate was low. And then we invested in marketing collateral and targeted marketing collateral. Prior to sort of doing some of these things, it was a scattergun approach. We were doing direct mail to mailing lists of people that may or may not have had interest in our organization. And a lot of that came down to putting together a really strong marketing plan. And we're in year 3 of that marketing plan, and we've really started to see a huge difference in the increase in interest in our facility. And we reevaluated our pricing strategy. So we increased rates a little bit, and we're going to continue to increase rates a little bit regularly, just to make sure that we're competitive within the market segment. But we're quite often the client or the company to beat when it comes down to price, and we like to be in that position. When we get to the food services situation, one of the things that drives our food service, and we have a service level agreement to operate that, but the corporate event center business drives the food service. We have a cafeteria, but the real revenue comes from catering, and it's an exclusive catering agreement. But we worked really hard to make sure that the customers were able to be served even in the cafeteria. There was a very poor design that was put forward by an expert in food services. It had lineups kind of crashing into each other and created chaos at checkout. So we streamlined that process, and we made it so that people can check out really quickly. And most recently, we went to a point-of-sale device that has tap technology, and that's even improved it more. But we were getting to the point, even with the streamlining, that we had long lineups just because of the success of the cafeteria. And the tap has greatly improved that. So I think the next step, if it gets busier, is probably 2 cash registers, which is a nice problem to have, to be honest with you. The other thing that we did is we re-engaged the service level agreement. It's a profit and loss agreement that we have with the food service, and so anytime that they lose money, I fork over cash, and anytime that they make money, I reap the benefit of that. And we wanted to make sure that they understood that that was how we saw the business is it was meant to make money. It wasn't meant to bleed, and it was meant to be something that it was run as a business so that we could do well at it and do well together. I mean, our success would be reflected in their success. So it was really coming together in that service level agreement, coming to a real understanding. And then there was some clauses in the original contract, probably because there was a skepticism around profitability that we started to prove really quickly in 2012, after, I guess, about 6 months after I started here. So we were able to adjust the profit sharing scenario that actually reflected a better benefit for CHSI in the bottom line at year end, and not just throughout the year on the reporting periods. When it comes to community events, as Nicole said, we're really focusing on building the brand, and we're not quite there yet. We're getting there, but we're not quite there. One of the trickiest things for us to define was, what does community mean to us? And community can mean so many different things. So when you're defining the market and developing collateral and figuring out who you're going to target, it becomes a fairly difficult thing. And so what ends up happening is we build the target around whichever product it is that that event is serving. And that's what we're finding is a better marketing approach is to figure out the event that's interested in the community has interest in, and then see who we can target for that event directly. And then as time passes, we're going to be building value to drive sponsorship. In the interim, what we've done is we're leveraging the corporate event center traffic, and we have around 1,800 to 2,000 people through here a week, to sell ad space on digital display boards that we have in support of the community event center client or product. So we're leveraging one service against the other to prop up the community events, and we're seeing that as a great success right now. So it all comes down to numbers. And when I started here, we had almost $100,000 loss in 2011 on our food service. And we reversed that loss inside 2012, and by 2014, when we closed out the year, we had nearly $100,000 profit. So in 3 years, we had a $200,000 swing, and in profitability. And it's still a relatively small business that we're talking about, but we have done great things with it. When it comes to the corporate event center, we've nearly doubled the revenue in the last 3 years in that regard as well, and it's a thriving business, and we only can go up from here. We started selling evening and weekend space. Up until probably 2013, we were really locked into daytime events almost exclusively. We had some very special clients that would come in on evenings and weekends, but we've opened it up to evenings and weekends, and because a lot of my daytime business is used by the health and safety associations that occupy the building, I have a little bit less to sell. When it comes to evenings and weekends, I've got 100% of that to sell, and there's tremendous, tremendous opportunity there. And we look around, we do market scans, and even in slow periods of the year, we're busy and our clients are our competition is quiet. So we feel like we're really doing well in that regard. Okay. So as a small business manager, CHSI basically is a small business, and we operate very well as a small business manager. Engaging senior leadership is a little bit different for me. I report to a board of directors, so there really wouldn't be an opportunity for me not to engage the senior leadership. But making sure that I have their ear and that my strategy is sound and that we're moving forward in growing the business and making sure that we're satisfying all of our stakeholders is always important. And I think it's really about a relationship for me. It's about making sure I understand the different needs and opinions of my board of directors, making sure that I articulate things differently, maybe to different people in the way that they need to hear about it, making sure that I've aligned everything that I do to my strategic plan, and then be very strategic about how we're marketing and demonstrating value as we move along. And certainly it does not hurt that we've dramatically improved our corporate bottom line, and I think that we're well positioned for the future. To Nicole's credit, the building is now 9 years old. You've seen a few pictures of it through the slide deck that we've had for the case study. It looks like it did 9 years ago. It really hasn't shown the age that it's had, and that's to the credit of making sure that we're reinvesting in the building that is our business. And we'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
Okay, everybody, if you have any questions, be sure to make sure you type them into the question or the chat box. And I do have a question. It says, does becoming a SBM have the potential to overwhelm the FM and distract them from the normal day-to-day activities?
It might, yeah. There's no question that if you're a small business manager, you may get distracted from the day-to-day activities. And so we did a couple things here that as we were showing value and showing revenue, we were also able to increase our staffing levels. And so I think there might be a breaking point where you start to get overwhelmed, but then if you're starting to demonstrate real value, you have the opportunity to say, I'm showing value, I need the staffing level that's adequate to support that value and keep it moving forward. And that's really what we did here. Our staff is now a staff of 6. In 2011, it was a staff of 3, plus our contracted staff.
Excellent. We'll give it just a moment to see if anyone has any other questions. And then if they think of them later, Nicole and Geoff's contact information is on the current slide. And again, a copy of the PowerPoint and a link to the recording will be sent later today. So you can always refer back, or if you have any questions, feel free and reach out to Geoff. Give it just a moment before wrapping up. Is there anything you'd like to add, Geoff or Nicole, before we wrap up?
Probably only that I'd like to wish everybody a happy Easter. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Excellent. I echo those sentiments as well. Everyone have a happy Easter, and thank you for joining the FMCC webinar. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Everyone have a great day. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye.